Sixth, 2023, and at 5:30 p.m. with the Pledge of Allegiance. Agenda item number 2 is school committee member introductions. We'll start with Scott.
Scott, Lewiston City Council Representative.
Ward 7 representative.
Megan Hurd, Ward 6 representative.
Ashley Medina, Ward 5 representative.
Tanya Whitlow, Ward 4.
Janet Bowden, Ward 2.
Bruce Damon, Ward 1.
Megan Parks at large.
Jake Lang, superintendent.
Karen Paquette, Assistant Superintendent.
Agenda item number 3 is the consent agenda. Are there any items that members would like set aside? Seeing none, the consent agenda is adopted.
Yes, I was wondering if we could move up the bathroom update. Do we have some students that want to speak on that?
Are they here now?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Is anyone opposed to that?
After we do the second graders and the recognition.
Yes, yes, we'll do the ones first, but other than that, is anyone opposed to the bathroom update so students can get on with their evening? Okay. All right, so I still have a couple more things, sorry. Agenda item number 4 is public input. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items now or on agenda items later. Comments that pertain to staff, personal matters, or a student issue should be directed to the superintendent or the appropriate staff members of Lewiston Public Schools. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee and be brief, not repetitive, and related to the matter at hand. Before starting, please state your name, address, and affiliation to Lewiston Public Schools. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Thank you.
I live at 36 Hidden Oaks Drive in Freeport, and I'm an English language learning teacher at Lewiston Middle 1, Team Denali, 7th grade. Chairperson Parks, City Councilor Scott, Superintendent Langlis, Assistant Superintendent Paquette, members of the committee. Thank you for this work. It's valuable. Thank you for this service. I'm in my first year with Lewiston Public Schools and at Lewiston Middle, but I've been a teacher for over 20 years. My public school teaching career began in Arlington, Virginia, and in 2004 in North Martin, I moved to Bath, and I began teaching at Morse High School, where I held positions as an English teacher. I was head of 9th grade team there, assistant head coach for girls soccer, boys varsity soccer coach. I had some great battles with Mike McGraw. And I consider him one of my good friends in the soccer community here in Maine. I moved on to teaching at Thornton Academy in soccer, where I taught at the high school for a number of years, and then at Thornton's middle school for the 2 years before I came here to Lewiston. So I've been around. An essential question that teachers will ask themselves about the place they work: would I want my child part of this community? Would I want my child taught here? What questions more basic, fundamental, honest, if you will, about the teacher's perspective and values? What's more at stake? And almost without hesitation, I would say to Lewiston Middle, yes, I would want my child here. This is a great place. The teachers are excellent. The kids are wonderful. But I would have just one hesitation at the moment. It's not a small one, but I think it's one that can and should be addressed. And I hope processes are in place to discuss this openly and honestly in our community. Lewiston Middle School is the first middle school in my career as a teacher and in my life as a parent. My kids are now at Freeport High School, where there is no time for unstructured or choice play during the day, recess. I could cite study after study that demonstrates the links between play and movement, time away from screens and desks. And I will refer you to the excellent district-wide programs that staff train in, especially the social emotional learning trainings we've had, the great ruler program that Superintendent Langus highlighted at the start of our year, and that we followed up with trainings throughout these months. Our young adolescents have so much energy. We need to give them space during that 7:15 to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday schedule to work through that energy that's in their systems. I don't think that one trimester of every other day gym classes is enough. I want to be met. We lost a really good man in Tim Strong. I was not fortunate enough to teach on his team, but he was a steady presence in the halls, and it was clear that the enjoyment he took in his work. His team celebrated him in his memory with a sports day recently, and I think that's so appropriate. He was a lover of sports, a great coach, and sports and play are such a vital part of all of our lives. But even with unstructured play, children need some guidance and practice at it to get better, especially after 2 years of pandemic and remote hybrid learning. I know a change to the schedule might be a little difficult, but I think it's incumbent on us as adults in the community to overcome those difficulties, make this happen for our beautiful, wonderful kids who look to us for guidance. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak? Agenda item number 5 is to recognize LPS staff and students.
Start this evening with an interactive approach. Invite Charlotte Johnson up to the microphone, please. Podium.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Johnson, principal at McMahon. I have a few shout outs to make, and then I'm going to bring up some brave second grade students to share their writing, but I just wanted to give a little backstory before they come present. So this started a while ago. Sarah Carmelo, our literacy coach at McMahon, wanted to get people excited about the great things that are happening at McMahon School. And she worked with the second grade team. She went into all the second grade classrooms and modeled some interactive writing and connected it to the sound wall work that we've been doing this year for professional development. And then at a second grade team meeting, Val Golding, one of our second grade teachers, was like, I really want the students to be able to share their writing and have a purpose and an audience. So she really worked hard with Sarah and myself to make sure that their voices were heard. And that's why we're here tonight. And so, and then Karen Taylor is one of our special ed teachers, and she joined us later in this year, and she supported some of this work in her special ed classroom. So those are the staff that are here tonight. And then I'll let you know the students that are here, and I'll let them come up and share their great work. And there are pictures that can float around. Val brought some pictures of our second graders hard at work doing writing. And while those are going around, I can introduce our kiddos that are here tonight. So we have Warren Branson. Want to come on? Bennett Lucy. You can come up. And Milton Dominguez, France, Daniel Bean, and Ken Dungy. You want to go first, Maureen? Can I move this? You want to speak right into this microphone right here? And share your work?
At morning we do a greeting, and when we do share, we do a lightning share. The teacher chooses out of a box. We do an activity on the carpet. We do morning message. We are counting down to the 100th day of school. We do calendar. Our teacher reads a book to us. We read books by Chris Van Dusen. We use math equipment like place value blocks, 120 chart arrow cards, and playing cards. We play fun games with friends. We do math centers. Our centers are meeting with a teacher, work with a buddy, work by yourself, and technology center. We play Prodigy. We learn how to add and subtract. We with place value blocks. We learn to skip count. The teacher makes you add and subtract. We do times sometimes, but not all the time, because we are in second grade and almost third graders. The times we can use our fingers to count, or we can use dice to count.
Nelson, you can say your name too. You want to say who you are and introduce yourself?
My name is Milton. My name is Ben. At book break, we turn off the lights and turn on the glitter lamp. Some of our favorite books are Wedgie and Gizmo 1, 2, 3. The Wild Robot Book 1 and 2, Gooseberry Park, Helen Keller, and I Survived Stories. In Wedgie and Gizmo books, Wedgie is a corgi dog, and Gizmo is a guinea pig. Gizmo is an evil genius. Wedgie calls himself Super Wedgie and protects his pack night and day and night. Gizmo calls Wedgie Corgi. In book 2, Gizmo flies a drone. Wedgie hates Brutus, the dog who lives next door, because he thinks Brutus wants to steal his things. In the third book, they go camping. We like the Wild Robot books because she has many adventures. Her name is Roz, and she learns to talk to the animals. She has an adopted son who is a goose named Brightbill. She adopted him because she accidentally killed his parents when she fell off a cliff and landed on them. We read about Helen Keller. She is deaf and blind, but she was still able to learn. She was wild at first because she was frustrated that people couldn't understand her. Then a girl named Annie and taught her to read using Braille. We read about Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Ruby Bridges. We love book break because we read books that inspire us.
Your name, introduce yourself.
My name is Mia. At Reader, we read to self, we shop for books, we have assigned seats, we can sit in the script doctors, we are safe, responsible, and respectful. Some kids read dogman books, we go on Epic, and the teacher gives us a book on Epic to read. We read fiction and nonfiction. The teacher calls us up to read a book. We have a level 1 voice. We are reading nonfiction books. These are some of the nonfiction books we read. are Helen Keller, Rosa Parks, Ruby Bridges, and Martin Luther King Jr. We read about sharks, penguins, and polar bears. Writing. I love writing because it makes you calm. We have level 0 voice. We think before we write. We write neat. We leave spaces. We use question marks and periods. We do not narrative writing. I wrote a story about me going to Minnesota. I wrote a story about going to a new school. We did nonfiction writing from eggs. The eggs are called mermaid purses. Penguins eat fish and they drink salty water. What is quick? What is quiet? What has 5 rows of teeth and guides through the water? Sharks.
You can say your name.
My name's Cam. Snowboarders was that was my top. Was snowboards that go up and down, they go side to side, they could go fast. You have to wear your safety helmet. The snowboards go outside and go in the car and go snowboarding. The snowboards wear the boots and the gloves and snowboards and to wear the goggles and a snow pants and helmet to protect yourself so you don't get hurt. In order to be the best you can be, you need to practice. They get out of the car with the gear and snowboard to go off the mountain and slide down fast. Enjoy our day.
Name's Daniel.
My name is Daniel. My story name is What I Do in the Winter. I went outside to build a snowman. I go sledding. I did a snow tower competition. I went snowboarding. I built a igloo. I drank hot cocoa. I sat down by the fire. I got toasty warm. I toasted marshmallows. I took a warm foot bath. I pulled up the bubbles to make the bubbles turn on and the fancy red light turn on. The fire was in the inside of the igloo. I told Santa I wanted something that can see your body heat and a new phone. I put minty chocolate in the hot cocoa to make it taste better. I jumped on the trampoline. It was so much fun. Snow was going everywhere. I did a snow angel. I went skiing. I had so much fun.
So thank you for being an audience to our second grade writers and giving them a purpose for their writing. I appreciate the time and nice work. Yeah, we do.
And Tiffany, if you wouldn't mind coming up, Tiffany Sachs, interim principal at Montello, for a couple of special recognitions.
Hi, thank you. I have something to follow. I want to be in a second grade classroom. It looks like a lot of fun. I do have a couple of acknowledgements as well. So I have a couple of staff members here with me. I have Melissa Dean and I have Daniel Hoppenbauer. And both of these staff members are long-term subs and have had really unique situations that they really helped us survive at Montello and really allowed us to start the year and continue the year rather seamlessly, even though we have, always the typical bumps in the road. But I'll share a little bit about each of the roles. We'll start with Melissa. So we had a couple of staff changes last minute. So we had a staff member move from a first grade classroom into our unified arts position. And that left a vacancy at the beginning of the year for first grade. So Melissa stepped in and was really the teacher to get the routine started, get the classroom community started right from the beginning until we filled that vacancy. That's a lot to do. So if you're a teacher, we say, if you know, it's a lot to do to begin. Melissa did that and then transitioned into a bunch of long-term assignments. So she's done maternity leaves and is now working on a long-term assignment for one of our staff people who is a student teaching in another school in Lewiston. So we couldn't do all that without her. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge her for that work. It's really hard to be in a long-term role. And so I just want to say thank you so much for that. We can thank her first. And Danielle, it's something similar, but a little more wacky. So we had a sixth grade vacancy at the beginning of the year. And again, if you know, sixth grade is a tough gig. And Danielle came in at the beginning of the year and is still continuing to lead a sixth grade classroom. And if you were to walk into her room, you would have no idea that she is a sub. She runs that classroom like it is her own. So it is her own, and she's done a magnificent job really leading the charge there and being a great team member and all of the above and beyond things that you don't have to do as a sub, but she does because she's committed to the work. So I just want to thank both of these ladies for their tenacity, for their effort, and really sticking with us as we try to finish up, filling out our vacancies and making sure we have a solid plan for next year. But I have to say, they are part of the team and part of our staff here. There's no difference in roles. They are doing what teachers do. So again, thank you, Danielle, for all the effort that you put in.
And we do have certificates, but I want to make sure everybody could hear that we're not just thankful for you, we're really truly are thankful for you, and our kids in our community are thankful. We would not operate day to day in those classrooms without your help. So really, thank you. You're changing kids' lives every day.
So we'll do the field trip requests just because those are really quick, and then we'll move on to the update, moving up the bathroom discussion. Agenda item number 6 is to receive and potentially vote on a field trip request for Thomas College, and Nick or Tyson is listed. Are either of them here? Want to flip flop those and move to the DC one first? Since they are here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we allowed? Thank you. I'm sorry. Are we allowed to vote on it if there isn't someone here to?
I think if we have adequate information, we can.
Because I'm prepared. I'm fine with voting on it, but I just wanted to ask if that was okay.
Yeah, I don't see any issue with it if you feel you have the information you need. Typically, we do have someone here to present.
Is anyone opposed to voting on the Thomas College field trip without a presentation? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the field trip to Thomas College.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Sorry, did you have a comment? Sorry, Ms. Scott.
I just would like to, if we could, on the Thomas College, this is for the Thomas Cup to receive scholarships worth up to $10,000. I would like to know that if any of our students, as they perform through this, receive something, if we can get an update on that, please.
Thank you. Sorry, all in favor? It's unanimous. And then agenda item number 7, the gentlemen are here to present on the Washington DC field trip.
Mr. Sergeant Jerry Gibson, the instructors for student TC class at Lewiston High School, and we request a field trip to Washington DC. Initially, this trip was suggested by our regional director when we had an inspection back in October. He wanted to help jumpstart our program with the Shoreline Cadets, and he's helping us in different ways. And one was to offer some initial financing, $5,000 for a trip to Washington, DC, a STEM trip. So we've been busy fundraising for the remainder of that. Up until this point, that's why we're requesting it now, because we wanted to make sure that funding was going to come through. This is not a Lewiston Public Schools funded trip. They won't come out of the budget from the Lewiston Public Schools. It's going to come from fundraising from cadets, that initial $5,000 from our regional director. And also we've also gotten some donations from different groups. One particularly the Lewiston Auburn Exchange Club is matching some funding there as well. So we're confident we have the funding for this trip. We'll answer any questions as far as agenda, finance, any questions you have as far as that's concerned. We do have 20 confirmed cadets that are going, which is a good number of students, Sergeant Gibson, myself, and we have one parent volunteer as a female chaperone as well for our cadets. But I'm happy to answer questions about the trip, agenda, anything you'd like to know, we would be happy to answer today. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I was just hoping that, if this passes, which I'm sure it will, after you get back, would you come back for a presentation and show us some photos? And I'd love to hear about the tours that they're going to take of the Capitol and the White House.
Yes, ma'am. We're requesting. That's been processed, so we won't know until a couple of weeks before the trip. But the Capitol tour has already been confirmed through Senator Collins' office. We've had cadets that have been making contact with different agencies, and those are the two hopeful highlights. We'd hopefully like to get to the White House, but the Capitol tours is confirmed. So to answer your original question, absolutely, we'll require that of our cadets to come and give you a presentation based on our activities. So thank you. Yes, sir. How will you be traveling? Good, sir. So we're going to be traveling from the high school by Concord to, we expect to be going to Boston International, going to Logan to fly. It's actually based on the research for travel. That's probably the least expensive. So flying to directly to Reagan International from Logan, and then we're going to have vehicles. It looks like the transportation in Washington, DC is going to be vans that we're going to use to transport our cadets. 1 to 2 vans should suffice as far as that's concerned. And if it's one, it would be shuttling of students, since we wouldn't be able to get them all in our whole group in one vehicle. So.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the LRTC. TC? Here on the thing, I'm like, where is it? Field trip.
For a second, for that very eloquent motion.
I will second that. That is an elementary school parent right there.
Just for clarification, it's the JROTC.
In favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate it. And we will be back with cadets to regale you on our adventures. Thank you very much. Thank you guys.
And now we will move on to agenda item number 12, to receive an update on the LHS bathroom access.
So just want to provide a quick update, if possible. So we had 3 school committee members be invited to the high school to tour the accessibility of the facilities. What do we have? What do we not? And then I think it was a good tour. Those who were able to attend, and to try to get a sense of some of the challenges that we're facing. I also know that Principal Radke, who could not be here tonight, is actively involved in the conversation, and that the House of Representatives at the high school are, it's a student body, the representatives from each DA that are working on some potential solutions and some kind of like a in-house public service announcements, because there's some real concerns about bathrooms of students going into a stall or into a single-use bathroom and just staying there for a really long time. We don't know what they're doing. Maybe natural, maybe Netflix, we're not sure. But we're trying to be mindful of that. The other thing that has popped up in supervision, sometimes or at times bathrooms have been closed because of damage to the bathrooms. We've seen ceiling tiles get pulled down, damage to the facilities, paper towel dispensers, soap dispensers, even seen some damage to sinks, and even broken things like urinals. And so we're actively working to narrow those things down. And bigger challenge, I think, really is student to student, and how we can get the message out to them to work together and be mindful of their peers, because the damage is not acceptable. It causes bathrooms to be closed. It causes supervision challenges. But we all have the concerns, and we're just hopeful that we can turn a corner here through messaging and through making sure things are accessible to all of our students.
Did any of the school committee members who toured the high school want to speak, or?
Thank you. Yeah, so it was Member Whitlow and I that attended. And Mr. Radke took us through. We started off in the new wing of the high school, in the art wing. And I think I counted 9 individual stalls in that wing that were open. However, those, because they're single stalls, that's when we talk about kids who are going in there and just planting themselves in there for who knows how long. That's a concern in that wing. But that's also like the arts wing, I guess, if we're going to call it that. And so where the student body is in general, those are not easily accessible bathrooms, because it's a completely different part of the school. So when we were taken into the main part of the school where the students are, we were shown where the bathrooms are, end of the hallway, in a corner near a stairwell, where there's no eyes. So there's no classroom across from those bathrooms. It's windows looking into the center courtyard, I believe. So that's the biggest problem with those restrooms, and those restrooms are locked. And unfortunately for the layout of the high school, that's where the students are during the day when they're in their classroom. So that's, I think, where the concern starts, is those are the most accessible bathrooms for students who are in class, but you can't get to them because they're locked unless a teacher comes down and unlocks it for you and kind of supervises. We moved into the hallway in front of the office. There was a couple single bathrooms there, and there was I don't know what you call it what is that bathroom? Again, is what it's called. So where there's numerous stalls inside of that bathroom. And we did talk to a couple students in the hallway, and they just sort of felt like there's not a lot of privacy in those bathrooms. They prefer not to use those bathrooms, but they are always available. Again, it's kind of a hike for some kids, depending on what floor you're on and what class you're in. The gym bathrooms are typically locked. We did take a look at those, and the boys' bathroom down there had the entire lock and handle missing from the door. Like there was a hole in the door. So that one wasn't locked. It was really strange. So we did see vandalism. One of the restrooms that we walked into, like Superintendent Langley said, the ceiling tiles were missing, the piping was all exposed, and that had just been vandalized the day before. We went into the LRTC wing. We did not go downstairs at LRTC. We kind of stayed on the first floor, and there were restrooms right there that were also locked because they had been vandalized like that day or the day before. So I think I don't want to speak for Tanya, but I'll speak for myself when I say I think the biggest problem with the bathrooms is there's not enough eyes on the bathrooms. There just needs to be adults present watching who's going in and out and who's going in and then not coming back out. Like those are things that need to happen, but it's a sticky situation because we're talking about restrooms and people's privacy. So one of the solutions that we kind of discussed afterwards with Mr. Radke was possibly coming up with some parent volunteers that would be willing to kind of take shifts at the school and walk around and just be present and have eyes on the bathrooms, and even just in the hallway. Like we saw kids just standing around like, where are you supposed to be, you know? So having that extra set of eyes in the hallways at our schools, just having parents around in general, I think would make such a huge difference. So that's something that, you know, we wanted to discuss, but I'll let Member Whitlow speak.
Yeah, Janet, I mean, she was very thorough. What I think I was actually at the high school 2 days in a row, one for a personal appointment, and that was the day after our walkthrough. So I sat in the office just observing for probably 20 minutes while I waited for my appointment, and it was just very clear that people were always roaming the halls. Students were always roaming the halls, and there's just not enough staff to say you need to get back to your room or walk them back to their room. And even when we were on our tour and we were with the superintendent and the principal, there's students that are roaming the halls. When we say, where are you supposed to be? You need to get back to class. They just look at us like, you know, they don't do anything. There's no consequence. There's nothing. They don't care because they've been allowed to just walk the halls. That's what it seems like as an outsider. And I could be completely wrong, but that was what I observed. And so I had suggested to the principal to say, like, okay, well, we just formed a parent, what was it? A parent engagement group. What about getting parents in here? Just to walk the halls. I love the idea of dads that may have some time to just come and be present once in a while. And I know that a lot of people work and it's hard, but I really think it's important. And I think with Megan Hurd being able to spearhead that subcommittee and us supporting it, we have to. And Linda has been, you know, saying it for months now, like, let's get these parents in here. So where do we start? What has been done and why are we not doing it? Like, I feel like it should have been started already, and maybe it is, I don't know, but how do we get the parents to know that we need them? And is that sending things home? Is that a robocall? Is that, I don't know. But obviously one of the things that we need is background checks done. And so it's going to take some time, but first we need to get the word out that, hey, we need you guys. We can't do it ourselves anymore. So.
Thank you.
You start. You're not starting. Say your name. Just say it.
Is it on?
Yes, it's on.
My name is Shoki Saeed and I'm a senior at the high school.
My name is Adriana Viles. I'm a sophomore at the high school. I would just like to start off by saying that I sent out an email to a lot of you, I think every single one of you guys back in October, and I really appreciate that you guys actually read it and took the action. And, you know, like, we appreciate that very greatly. Like, the entire student body really appreciates it because we do have a big bathroom problem, as you guys saw. But one thing that I would like to talk about is, from my understanding, you guys took the tour on Wednesday, first period. And I feel as though it wasn't the right time to take the tour because, like, it's like, yeah, like what you guys saw was pretty hectic, but it's not like you guys didn't see the bad thing. I would suggest having it like late second period and probably going into the cafeteria and seeing what it is like during lunch, because it gets really bad around that time. What else was I gonna say? And I feel as though it would be important to you guys before, like, you know, to send another group to do this tour again, because I think it would give a better, you know, overall understanding of your guys' like conclusion before, just so you can get like, oh, this is what it's like in the morning, here's what it's like in the afternoon, but you won't really see it during the last period. And yeah, and you guys will get a full understanding of the bathroom problem at our school.
With a lot of the bathrooms in our school being locked, teachers are currently taking their class on classroom trips. With my understanding, these classroom trips were recommended to teachers so that students can get a break to walk around and stretch and just keep everyone active. But a lot of teachers have took it the wrong way. And according to a lot of my peers in these classrooms, they're not allowed to use the bathroom before or after the bathroom breaks. And these bathroom breaks being 10 minutes, not everyone has to use the bathroom at the same time, and not everyone is doing the same business in the bathroom. We 100% agree that not every single student in our school respects the hallways, the hall pass, or the bathroom in general. But we need more staff to understand that not every single student who takes more than 5 minutes to come back from the bathroom is roaming the school or using it just in a inappropriate way. It really does take about 5 minutes to find a bathroom that is not in use, that's not dirty, or just not functional, even if it's just a door that won't lock. Or it might just take them about 3 minutes to find a bathroom from where they are, since a lot of the bathrooms near them might be closed. You would think, like you said, having teachers monitor the bathroom does solve it, but no, last year, this just caused a lot more problems than there's ever been with the bathrooms. With some teachers using their powers appropriately, there was some teachers who were using their powers in a disrespectful way. We had teachers last year looking under the stalls to see if the bathroom was in use or what the students were doing. And we've also had teachers taking photos of student shoes just to try and get them identified and seeing how many times that students use the bathroom throughout the day. This didn't just make students feel comfortable. It also started to ruin a lot of teacher-student connections. If it was their first time meeting a teacher and they've seen each other in a way that you wouldn't want to meet someone, it just built a bad energy from there on. And we would really appreciate it if there were other ways besides having teachers, because the bathroom is a personal place, and with the way some teachers took it, it was just making everyone feel uncomfortable, and that's when a lot of our problems began with the bathroom.
To add off of what Shukri said about the dysfunctional bathrooms, it really is bad. Like in the girls' bathroom over by the main office, you have to call over a friend so they could hold the door so you can pee, because like the locks don't work. It's either like the locks don't work, the toilet don't work, or the locks and the toilet doesn't work. And the only working and functional bathroom is the big bathroom. And like Shukri said, there's teachers that are banging on the bathroom, looking under the stalls, because they immediately assume that you're using the big bathroom, you're vaping, you're talking to your friends, like you're not doing something. But you have to go to the bathroom. The individual bathrooms aren't open. We don't have any functioning stalls. So, and then the athletic directing like bathroom, it's always locked except for lunch. And then that's always full during lunch, and we can't go outside of the lunchroom to go to the bathroom. So in conclusion, we're just asking for you guys to take another look around our suggested times so you guys can see the true need and demand that we have for better bathrooms at our school. And, you know, then you guys can come to your conclusion. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Whitlow?
Don't go anywhere. I just have some questions. So do you have some suggestions of what we could do to make it safer and better and more accessible?
I think like it's one of the problems, like as Shukri said, there are a lot of students that are vandalizing the bathroom. They're not, you know, respecting anything. But at the same note, it's gotten to the point where other teachers are letting certain teachers abuse their powers, where you can't go to the bathroom. You go to a group bathroom break, can't go after that because they have this notion that you're not going to come back, that you're going to act like go do your, I think just at first try to have the teachers have trust in their students, you know, and if that doesn't work, then you guys can move forward. At first, last year, we did have like a teacher monitoring the bathroom outside of the bathroom doors, and they weren't going in and they weren't banging on the doors at first. It was only certain teachers that were really going in and looking under the stalls, but a lot of students knew like just go in, go out. I feel like the teachers are overstepping their boundaries, and because of that, it gives the students more of a need like, oh, I'm going to act up because you guys think that we're going to act up, you know?
It's more of a thing where the stricter things get, the more sneakier people get and
Yeah.
find their ways around it. And then they start to see if it really does work on them, and they're just acting out because they see how strict it's getting.
Thanks. Well, thank you first of all for your email. That really did get things rolling. So we appreciate you sending me that. I guess my question is, you're talking about the time of day that we showed up for our tour. It was a Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. You're correct. And you know, most students are just, you know, getting there and in their classroom, and they're really not looking to use the restroom just yet in the day. So the times that you are suggesting are what, before lunch? So we can see the lines. Is that what you want us to see, like the lines of kids waiting? Because we didn't see any lines of kids waiting to use the restroom when we were there that early in the morning. So what is it at that time that that would be beneficial for us to see?
We suggested this time because usually a lot of kids are late to school, you know, like a lot of the troublemakers are late, and it's usually like late second period is really when that's like when everybody needs a break, when everybody's going into the bathroom. You'll see 3 kids standing like where those 2 bathrooms are right next to the office. You'll see 3 kids just standing there waiting for a bathroom to open. And then for lunchtime, I was thinking more of the fact that we only have the athletic bathroom open. And we're not allowed outside to go to the bathroom, because last year we were allowed to just roam as long as we weren't just like distracting anybody, disrupting any classes. And this year it's like we were locked in the cafeteria at one point where it's like they closed the doors, we weren't allowed out. And now it's like, even if the bathroom's full, you ask them to, oh, can I go to the D wing to go to the bathroom? And they're like, well, you can go to the athletic bathroom, but there's a whole bunch of people in there.
Member Heard.
Thank you. I'm not sure I want to speak after that motion debacle, but so thank you for coming and speaking in front of us. We really appreciate it. It's not hard to get up. It's not easy to get up and talk in front of adults, but you guys did a great job. So my son is in elementary school, and they, over the last couple of weeks, have had to have assigned seating in the lunchroom. And he came home and he was upset that they were having assigned seating. He said because he behaves during lunch period, but it's because of other students during lunch period that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so everybody is now required to have assigned seating. And I said to him, I said, maybe you should talk to your friends if they're acting out or they're at a level 5 or they're not sitting where they're supposed to be sitting. Maybe you talk to them and tell them we have to sit in our seat or we need to be quiet or those types of things. And I think Superintendent Langlis kind of mentioned that, like, as a student body too, like everybody is being punished for a select few that are misbehaving. So as students, you need to be empowered to talk to your peers and say, like, if you don't stop your behavior, we're going to continue to have bathroom problems. Like, we need to come together as a community, because that high school is like a small little city. The amount of students that are in there every single day are like a little small city. So you need to communicate with your peers and try to influence them to make better decisions and do the right thing and hold each other accountable. Because it sounds like to me that you don't believe that having teachers monitor the bathrooms or parents or whoever is going to help. You feel like that makes that worse. And I think we're kind of all at a crossroads, like, what are other options at this point? So I encourage you to go back and talk to your peers and talk to your friends and tell them that you need to tell your friends, you need to tell your peers, you need to see if someone's doing something in the bathroom that they shouldn't be, you need to say, listen, cut it out, or we're all going to get punished because of it, or we're all going to lose bathroom privileges if we don't kind of get it together.
Member Scott.
Thank you. So first off, thank you very much for coming to speak to us. I think that your perspective is really, really important for us to understand. You see it firsthand, and I really, really appreciate you coming and speaking so honestly with us. I was thinking along the same lines, but I think that there's a little bit more that has to be done outside of just you being responsible to teaching, talking to your peers. I think that's part of it. I really do. But I'm thinking that that conversation needs to be had with staff. I mean, what these students have said to us, the staff needs to understand what students are saying. I don't know if there's a survey that can be put out and ask students for more input into what their perspective is, but I think that maybe staff should have a survey put out on what their perspective is, and that maybe the principal holds a way. And this conversation is had that you guys are responsible for your behavior at the high school. That the students that are there to learn and that want to do the extracurricular and the good things should not be responsible for what the kids that are misbehaving are doing. That's unfair, right? And I think that there is a sense of the students needing to take control of some of that back. And I think that you're very intelligent and old enough to be able to do that as part of that. But I think it's going to take more than just you two. I'm not expecting that of you two. I think it's going to take a good group of your students. But I think that, from what we're hearing, that there's a lot more perspective to be seen here than just what the students are saying. And we need to understand, and we do need to continue that conversation, and sooner rather than later, we know we do get the parents more involved. As Member Whitler has stated, I've been pushing, she was talking about parents being in the schools to help monitor the holidays. That's not just for the bathroom issues, that's for other issues as well. That's for students learning. That's for helping their staff to make sure that students are doing what they're supposed to be doing in school. It's not fun time, it's learning time. And it's important that all of our students recognize that in all of our schools, including the middle school, the elementary schools, and the high school. And I think parents need to be part of that conversation as well. I personally feel that, and this is no fault of students, I'm not saying that, but it changed things somehow. It just changed everything. And everybody came back with a different attitude and a different way of doing things. And I think we have to figure out a way to reel things back in and make that school the priority, and making sure that we don't have staff being too hard on the kids. If you got to go to the bathroom, you got to go to the bathroom. I mean, I had a daughter, she's almost 26 years old, but she had a serious medical issue where she just had to go. And, I had to fight with teachers all the way from her elementary to her middle school through high school to get her to have the opportunity that when she needed to go to the bathroom, she had to go. And, once you recognize that there's all these different aspects here, and you need to work harder. And I want to apologize that I had a family issue come up on Wednesday, so I wasn't able to make it. To be honest with you, I didn't even call because I finally fell asleep for the first time in probably about 24 hours. I have a very autistic granddaughter that was having some difficulty. So I apologize for that, but I would definitely be willing to do a later time, and let's get another group out there and continue this conversation. But can we look at doing a survey with the students? Let's talk to the staff. Let's get this more a conversation going there, and even the parents. What are parents hearing from their students? There's a lot of students at that school. We need to hear from all of them. Thank you, guys.
I'd like to thank you, Ms. Scott, for hearing us, because I do think that's a great starting point for us, talking to the staff, getting to see where they're coming from, and then also talking to the other students other than us to get where they're coming from. And then you guys could probably meet in the middle, And then to add a few misheard, I do agree with you when you say that it's our school is a little city, but I also think that's the problem. Last year we had in the very beginning of the year, a big majority of we only had one working bathroom at one point because students were stealing, they were breaking stuff, they were taking the soap dispensers, and we went around don't do that, we don't have bathrooms anymore, and even though we did, like you said, it's a little city, you're still going to have those people that are doing bad things, it's kind of and then, to kind of say oh, well, you students have to do, like talk to them, try to persuade this. And it's kind of like take Lewiston as, as an example. We're a good city overall, but there's still people in this area. There's this group of people that are doing this, they're doing drugs, this, that, and this, and it just gives us an overall bad look. And that's kind of how it feels on us students when it comes to the bathrooms. It's, oh, it's this group of students that's doing this, so we're going to punish them all. And then even though there's students trying to revolt against, the bad students, it's like, well, you guys should try harder. And it's, we've been trying, and that's why we're coming here today, because talking face to face with our peers just hasn't been working. So we're trying to talk to you guys about it now.
Member Bopel?
Thank you, Superintendent. I don't know the answer to this question, so I'll ask you, are there cameras in the corridors? Cameras that focusing on the bathrooms up from the outside? Some will catch, doorways. If people enter from the right angle and exit the right angle, things like that can be helpful. If we know when the instance occurred, or if there's a situation that occurred.
I had a question, and I don't know if it's a question that can be answered, but when I think back to when I was a student, which was a few years ago, there was like a one-off where a kid would be hanging out in the bathroom smoking or something like that, or a couple kids would get in a fight in a bathroom, but it wasn't a consistent problem. It was very random. And then I know when my daughter was in school, which actually is a few years ago, I think that's around when the bathrooms started to get locked down. And so I'm wondering, like, when did this shift happen? Were the behaviors getting so bad that the bathrooms started being locked, or did they start locking the bathrooms in response to minor behaviors and then it blew up from there? I don't know if you can speak to, because you've been here for a while, I don't know if you can speak to how that progression changed and why we're at this point now.
I mean, I can speak to my own experience, going back, I don't know, 15, 16 or so years when I started teaching at the high school level. The back ceiling bathrooms were always locked after there were multiple fires set. And so there were fires set in the trash cans, which were stainless steel. The school was evacuated. Again, this happened multiple times, and finally decided, because of a lack of supervision, they were going to close that back ceiling hallway, restroom. But also had fire damage that had to be taken care of and whatnot. As far as more recently, so those bathrooms at that point were closed. To my knowledge, the bathrooms at the technical center had been closed after their noontime programming dismisses, because teachers have their prep and there's no circulation of staff like you would see in other parts of the building. So those were always kind of shut down after the lunches, or when students were dismissed for that last lunch. And so there's always kind of been this piece. With the new addition, there's 9 new bathrooms in the hallway and 2 additional bathrooms across from the office. So it created 11 new spots for people to go to the bathroom that wasn't there a year ago or 14 months ago before that wing was open. And we're still seeing the challenges, but I still think that there's other things going on too. Students have phones, so if they want to, again, if they want to stream something, they go into an individual bathroom, you can do that. Whereas a gang bathroom, people used to knock on the door and be like, I gotta go, you've been in here 10 minutes, But I also think, vaping, we do have decent supervision in the hallways. And so I think that pushes people to other spaces. We find more kids in stairwells, we find more kids in bathrooms because there's more presence in the hall. It's a place to be. So it's been at least 15 years since those back ceiling bathrooms have been restricted. I don't know about others. Some of the closures of things we have. And the community may know this, but publicly people may not know. So when we have something vandalized so badly that it's causing water flow, we have to shut down that bathroom until we can repair the plumbing and the fixtures to make them safe for use and to protect the building and the facility. We also have had this year 2 different instances of sewage issues, not in the school, but backed up. And so we had to stop water flow downward to resolve that. And those have been resolved, but that would have caused an issue that day. I'll add to it, we don't have time sensors. You see these in some places where in an individual single-use bathroom, if someone goes in and locks the door, it'll sense that there's someone in there and a light goes on outside, just to let you know that it's in use. But if it stays on a certain amount of time, it can let you know that it's been that long, so that people know that could be, whether it's a seizure or a medical event or something like that, you know that door has been closed and locked, but it's not, no one's come out. And so that can be a concern. as part of the email that you reached out to us about, we actually found that there was a custodian that was cleaning the bathrooms in the evening and locking them behind him so that they were good to go in the morning, and no one was unlocking them. So we found that some of the bathrooms on the first floor were actually closed and locked as part of a routine that wasn't intentional. So then kids thought it was in use all day long. This is ridiculous. And really what happened is they were locked because of cleaning. So we've learned a lot. Trying to answer that question, but so it's been a long time, I guess, long, short. But remember about that? Teachers at the high school that have cognitive duty of learning. So there's not a lot of duties at the high school at this point in time. That was attempted last year. To the students' point, it didn't seem overly effective. And you might go off topic a little bit. I want to say, as I answer questions first off, thank you so much. We have been begging for students to come and bring issues to the committee and for you to email and come to the podium and speak to it. I'm so thankful for that. So really thank you. That means so much to us. Everybody in this committee has been asking for students to participate in this process. So really thank you. We're hearing two things though, and I don't know if anybody cited this yet. So part of what you mentioned is some frustration around the approach to the bathroom issue. Some of it being last year, and I'm curious about that. Was that a last year thing or this year thing or both? But also the other concern we're hearing that you didn't bring up, students are talking about not having access to the bathrooms at all. And so I feel like we're hearing two things. One is about access, one is about what's happening in them, and one is about the supervision of them. And so I default to, if we're having an issue, we need to put more attention to it, more supervision to it. So I'm open to alternative ideas. Some things like hardware, things like that, we need to just look at. But is it there's not enough bathrooms, or is it what's going on in the bathrooms, or is it adult supervision being irritating, or is it kind of all of those things on a rotating basis? I'm just curious if you have thoughts.
I would say that it's really all, because at first it was like, we didn't have enough bathrooms because of what happened last year. And then it was what's happening in the bathroom. So we had to have supervision. And then with the supervision, it's like, oh, here's the problem with how they're supervising us. So it seemed like a big domino effect from just like not enough bathrooms.
Member Bowden?
Thank you. So I was just kind of thinking about my experience walking through the middle school and seeing the bathrooms at the middle school, which is not a guided tour. That was just me looking. Because I have a child at the middle school and at the high school, and I've heard nothing but complaints about the bathroom at both places. And one thing that I did notice that the middle school did is, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they just had them open, but it almost looked like they took the doors off the game bathrooms. That's what we're calling them. And I'm wondering if in the ceiling at the high school, that might be a solution, just to remove the door altogether, kind of maybe get rid of the urinals. So that's not a thing. And just have, the 2 or 3 stalls that's in each bathroom and it's open. So, you're really not going to get away with much if there's no door closing it off, right? Just the stall doors. Is that even a possibility, or is that like crossing a line as far as privacy? That seems to be how they're doing it in the middle school, and it seems to be working okay. So is that an option at the high school?
I've never been asked that, so I don't know. But I think every idea right now is worth looking into. So.
To answer your question, Ms. Bowden, for us personally, I think taking off the actual doors of the bathroom, like when you're walking into the gang bathrooms, I really don't think that's gonna change anything, because the doors are usually open throughout the entire day. They just close it at the end of the day so nobody can go in there and hang out there after school because people need to leave. As far as taking the doors off the stalls for the urinal.
No, so what I was saying is, like, for example, I looked into the male bathroom when I was there, and there was a couple urinals and then there were a few stalls. So what I'm saying is, if you remove the outside door to go into that bathroom, get rid of the urinals, because you obviously need privacy with urinals. So if you discontinue the use of the urinals and then you just have the few stalls that are right there, where you can still close and lock the stall that you're in, but you wouldn't have a door
on the outside of the restroom altogether, from the hallway in. Does that make sense? Okay.
One thing we forgot to add, but going back to the time we suggested is because that's when LRTC is also on their break. And since LRTC bathrooms have been closed since I think last school year, the beginning of last school year, they have no choice but to come and use our bathroom, even though they're a separate school on their own. That just adds on more people using our bathrooms where there's barely enough bathrooms for us. So there's a whole nother school using our bathrooms around that time.
Yeah, the LRTC bathrooms aren't unlocked when there's students there. I thought they were getting locked just at noon.
The bathrooms, I don't like, it wasn't, they're usually never open for students for LRTC. It wasn't just it was closed that day because of vandalism. It's been closed since like last year.
LRTC, all floors?
No, the downstairs one, I don't know the upstairs one. I think the upstairs one is the one that the staff use most of the time.
Yeah, upstairs
Yeah.
became a staff bathroom.
We were told that the ones on the bottom floor for LRTC were supposed to be open. They never took us down there. They just told us that those were unlocked because there was no other people from the high school weren't going down. But I've heard this a couple times that referencing that LRTC is a whole different high school than the high school, but they're different schools, but they're not though. Like that's weird how it's everybody thinks of them as separate schools, but in my eyes, they're not. It's the same students that go there, some of them. So I don't like that reference of being separate. And I know you're looking at me like, no, they're separate, but that seems weird to me. So nothing against you ladies, but I'm just, yeah, I don't.
Pushing, remember Beaupont?
Yeah, I'm still trying to understand the downside of having 2 or 3 teachers each period in lieu of the study hall and learning lab do corridor duty. Maybe having equipped with a walkie-talkie or someone and say that so-and-so hasn't returned from the bathroom in 15 minutes. Would you check the stalls? Would you, somebody's roaming, would you find him or her, put him back to class? Is that possible? Yeah, I can certainly make note and see if we can look into it. I'm not opposed to that. I don't know what the structure is right now for teachers when they have that prep, but I know that high school staff have, I believe, a 75 or 80-minute prep daily. I don't know if there's any rotational coverages for duties during those windows.
Member Whitlow?
Yeah, there was definitely discussion with the principal about that, Paul. But we have to also be mindful of the teacher contract and what it says in that. And because they have to have so many periods of prep or planning and so that is definitely something that Mr. Radke talked with us about, and that's his future goal is to be able to do that, but everybody has to be on the same page and the union as well.
Member Beaupont?
What I'm looking at is combining if they're by attrition or whatever, some couple small windows into one. And one of the teachers would like to get up and do a walk and exercise or whatever else. Personally, I'd rather take a running lab, but I know of some teachers that say I can, do a corridor duty or something like that. So I'm not looking at a ladder, I'm looking at a switch of their duty responsibilities. I don't think coverages are currently something that happens in the existing schedule. So I don't think that there are labs that people are covering during that prep window. I think that they just have the prep each day. Sorry, again, for the workings here, a teacher gets a prep period, but does he not have a teaching duty each day or every other day? We don't have learning labs. Teachers will sometimes take students during their prep to do things. The freshmen have a flex, which is a learning lab-like environment, but no.
They did try doing that last year, but that's when the issue of teachers using it in an inappropriate way started to become a thing. whether it was them taking pictures of students, trying to get them identified by the main office, trying to get them identified by other staff members, or just peeking under the stalls and seeing what was going on in that stall.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem, it's like, I kind of agree with what you said, having a walkie-talkie, like this student was out for 15 minutes, like going to the stalls, like, hey, are you in there? Are you okay? Like, that's like one thing. But last year they tried to do that, and the way that a lot of the teachers approached it, well, some of the teachers approached it was really inappropriate, like looking under a stall is inappropriate. And I feel like a lot of teachers felt the need to abuse their power last year and even this year when it comes to the bathroom situation.
Yes, member.
Well, that certainly needs to be addressed. I don't think any right-meaning teacher would get on their hands and knees in a dirty bathroom to look under a stall. I mean, that's inconceivable to me. That's going over and above beyond. It should be addressed, of course.
Member Whitlow.
So you say that the teachers, some of them are abusing their power. And there is a power there that they're responsible for, their principal tells them they've got to go manage the stalls and the bathrooms. Like what are our teachers supposed to do? What would you like to see our teachers do when there's an issue in the bathroom?
I like, in my way, well, for a lot of students' ways of like them abusing their power, a lot of times the teachers take group bathroom breaks now, and it's usually like in the middle of the period, but they don't allow the students to do it individually, like 3/4 into the period, because they have to go to the bathroom. It's, why didn't you go to the bathroom when we went to the bathroom? And I feel like, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier, is trust, like even if you're still a bit iffy about that student, it's like they have to go to the bathroom, let them go. It's, I feel like that was one of the problem with abusing their powers, because you're refusing to let your students go to the bathroom, that's just like denying basic human rights at that point.
And I think that can be easily addressed in allowing teachers, letting the teachers know that if they don't go during that break, that they can still be allowed. And if they abuse that, then they no longer get that right. But I mean, they still have to have the right. I don't know. It's slippery slope, I guess, but that's a good point. Thank you.
And another example of it is a lot of teachers, they lose their pass because a student took it. And because they lost their pass, they will say, you can't go to the bathroom because I don't have a pass anymore. But they still have the paper passes where you can write down like so-and-so is going to the restroom, because there is a checkbox, like there is a box on there that you can check off, like this student's going to the bathroom at this time. Like I feel like they're using every and any excuse to get their way at this point when it comes to the bathroom.
Member Hurd.
Thank you. So a couple things. So I think obviously the teachers that are like looking under the stalls and stuff like that is completely inappropriate. But as Member Whitlow said, like the teachers are responsible for you when you're in that building. Like your parents aren't there, so your teachers are who's responsible for you. And in high school, you're getting ready to be an adult. So if you were to go off into your job and you decided to take 25 minutes in the bathroom at your job, your boss is going to come look for you and say, where are you? What are you doing? Like, why aren't you at your desk? Why aren't you doing what you're supposed to be doing? So I think teachers are willing to give you some leeway and some respect, and they're going to expect that you can go to the bathroom responsibly. But for the students that aren't using that responsibility and that are abusing that power, there has to be some way for them to monitor that situation. So I think if you can talk to your peers, or you can go home tonight and brainstorm and think of like, what are some ways that you would suggest teachers monitoring the bathroom, or parents monitoring the bathroom, or adults in that building monitoring the bathroom. Like if you had the perfect situation, what would that look like? And then bring that to us and give us that input, because we obviously you should never feel uncomfortable about going to the bathroom. You should never feel like you can't go to the bathroom if you have to go to the bathroom. But I think students need to give a little and staff need to give a little, and then we'll find like that medium where you guys can meet together and it works much better, and we won't have students that feel like they can't use the bathroom.
Member Medina.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention something that I've heard a lot from students. So one of the things is that when kids are given permission to go to the bathroom, if they're not back within 5 minutes, immediately the teacher starts attacking them. They get warnings for detention, things like that. But also then sometimes girls specifically will ask to use the bathroom for lady reasons, and they're told no, and they're literally bleeding through their clothes, and that's not okay. So I've heard that from many different young ladies, and so it's inappropriate and something needs to be done. So.
I know you said that there's a student group at the high school that's working on something. One of the things that I was thinking is sort of like we had a student group that wrote their own version of the dress code policy and then brought it to us, and the policy subcommittee reviewed it. Is this committee, or can we get the student committee, or can we get other students together that they can write their version of what they think would be appropriate bathroom usage and rules and all of that? And then we can review it as a committee and kind of come up with a happy medium between all of that. Is that an appropriate thing to do?
I think that's the intent of the student body doing that work, the student government.
Member Bowden.
Wow. Thank you. No, I just wanted to say, I'm sitting here and I feel extremely uncomfortable. I've heard teachers referred to as being on power trips and abusing their power over and over tonight. And I just it just makes me a little uncomfortable. I think teachers are doing their best. And I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't situations where perhaps something inappropriate happened and that needs to be addressed, but I do think that our teachers at the high school are doing their best. And I just want to publicly say I appreciate what they're doing. And I hope that none of them are listening to this tonight feeling discouraged, like we think, well, they're abusing their powers or what have you. I appreciate our teachers, and I know that they're really trying to just keep a classroom running smoothly. And there's obviously kids that are going to abuse the system, and they know at this point, which kids are going to do that and which kids aren't. And so if they're getting in trouble for being gone longer than 5 minutes, that's not going to be, unfortunately, it's not going to be every single kid in the class. It's going to be the kids that are probably abusing that hall pass over and over and over. So I just want to give a lot of props to our teachers for putting up with what they're putting up with, because I saw the vandalism and all of that firsthand. I just wanted to say that publicly.
I'd like to add to that, sort of say I support the teachers big time. I think the idea behind the group bathroom use was to keep a classroom together. It's because you have so much time with them, and if it's a constant cycle of kids being out of the classroom, it's, I don't know where I am, what did we talk about, what did I miss, and if it's just constant, I think teachers just got to a point where they said, all right, we're just going to do one bathroom break as a group so we can use the up 70 minutes of class. I'd rather give up 10 minutes and give everybody a little bit of time to go to the bathroom, and then have some instructional teaching and learning time instead of a constant flow of students outside of the class. I don't know that I like, as you mentioned, where we went as a group, so now you can't go. But if you go as a group and everybody can still go, then why go as a group? And why try to maintain that instructional window with some integrity to actually move students so they're prepared for life after high school. So this is a conundrum in a sense. I think we can find some solutions and some things to curb it and make it better. I think some things that are facilities and hardware, we just have to get that taken care of. I will have people in that building tomorrow looking at hardware. But I think beyond that, some of it is student choice and making better decisions. Some of it is, instruction and instructional time. And I say both those things because if you have a really dynamic teacher, you may not be looking to get out of your classroom as much. And sometimes we see that less dynamic classrooms have a lot of passes gone. And I think that's stuff we can talk about too. So I don't want to knock anything that you have shared. I do think it's important that the intentions of the teacher say, we're going to do one break is with your best interest in mind. And it may feel like a power trip, but it's really about having 70 whole minutes and losing 10 instead of losing 5 minutes, 10 minutes constantly throughout the class. It can be really hard to engage a group of students when they're constantly in and out. I mean, just for my own 2 cents, and I think teachers are working hard to make sure that students are safe also, because a year ago we were having a discussion right around this time of year about the number of fights. And that's gotten much better this year, but some of these strategies overlap the bathrooms.
Any further discussion? Just one.
Yeah, I do want to reiterate that females that have a menstrual cycle do require to use the bathroom a lot more than males. And I think that that has to play a part in some of the rules and regulations that we're trying to have around the bathrooms.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that, having listened to all of this, one of the things that I think starts to come through for me is just that not only is there a difficulty of mutual respect, the students are not respecting the building and the facilities when they don't, and when they, obviously they wouldn't tear their own bathrooms apart at home, I would hope. So when they do it to a public facility like this, it just shows a glaring lack of respect and responsibility on their part. Part of what we're trying to help students, adolescents learn is that you do have to have respect for not only your peers, but also for your, the teachers, the administration, and even more so the building. You can't be knocking windows out and thinking that you're going to be able to keep the building safe and secure. You can't be busting doors open. You can't be breaking stuff and think that you're going to earn the respect of anybody, because you're just acting like a hoodlum. And that's not going to cut it. So part of this whole part of the whole process to me is learning respect at many levels. That you have to respect, you guys have to respect each other. If you can't respect each other, it's going to be very difficult to earn the respect of the teachers and the administration. I mean, some of this stuff is not just, we're just going to give it to you because you have some of this stuff you have to earn. That's part of what happens as you grow up. You have to earn where you're going. And it sounds to me like, the issues of the vandalism and stuff, I've seen it, and it's ridiculous. I don't know how you help your peers, the other students, get that message, but it all comes right down to this, respect each other, respect the building, respect the teachers, respect the administration. They're working very hard to try to give you an education and get you ready for the big world, because the big world is nowhere as near as forgiving as what you're seeing at the high school. You act up like that when you're out in a job, you're gone. You don't have a job anymore. They just won't. Business will put up with it, and it's absolutely ridiculous to think that that's what part of the issue with not denying everybody the right to use the bathrooms is because all they want to do is go in and destroy them. I was sad to think that that's what our society has deteriorated to. And I agree with several of the members here. COVID just seems to have just set a standard that is so low for behavior that it is just totally unacceptable. You can set the bar anywhere. I'd like to set the bar high and try to get over it, rather than setting the bar low and still trying to crawl under it. And I guess that if there'd be one thing that I'd like to be able to think that we could change is to raise that bar and to raise the expectations of everybody that we all need to get over it rather than under it.
Thank you. Were there any other members of the public that wanted to speak on this? Yes. You can come up to the mic. The girls will step aside.
Hi, I'm Katie. Just on my pad, I live in River Valley Village, so we have a high population of high schoolers and middle schoolers, and this isn't a problem just at the high school. This is also a problem that's occurring at the middle school with these children. And I understand, sir, where you're talking about levels of respect and stuff like that, but there's children like my daughter, she's an A-B student. She's had to come home, like Ashley said, multiple times. That's not right to these young ladies because of other kids' actions. And unfortunately, I'm not making any excuses for those children that acted out, but oftentimes those children are acting out to seek help. That's another lack of resources within our community is mental health awareness and assisting children with behavioral issues and other types of issues. But again, like my thing is, you can't make all the other children sacrifice just because of some children. So especially young women, like let's keep it honest. Young women need more than 5 minutes in the bathroom. They shouldn't be getting reprimanded because they're taking 10 minutes. And again, these children don't say nothing because of the level of respect that they do have. Yes, there's those children that do vandalize and don't have respect, but there's more children that are establishing and displaying respect than there is children that aren't at this point. And I think it is time to revalue, because again, sir, you stated that COVID had changed a lot of effects and aspects of schools and how things were approached in the community within everywhere anyway. But our rates are going down. So I just think it's time to review this situation, especially again with these young ladies. Like, it's just not okay for 5 minutes for girls. It's just not.
Thank you for coming up. I just want to say something you said stood out to me, and I totally agree with that. Most of our students are doing exactly what we asked them to do. And there's some that we definitely need to address and work on, and we're going to work on this problem too.
Thank you guys for listening to what Shukri and I had to say. Just to reiterate our overall mission and goal about having this discussion with you guys is that you guys, come back, relook at everything. And I think our mission that we were talking about as a group, because there were other students that helped us put this thing together, that helped us bring up these ideas, is we want enough student bathrooms that's working, that we can go to, that we don't have to wait 5 minutes, and we don't have to wait 5 minutes just to go to the bathroom, and then when we come back, we're going to get in trouble for it. That's what our overall demand and want is. So thank you guys.
Thank you for coming and speaking tonight. We appreciate it. Moving on to agenda item number 8. Okay.
That's, yeah, it's not, I don't know.
Shukri.
No.
I'm gonna blank now. Okay, can we move on with Ashley? Okay, she's coming. Agenda item number 8 is to receive an update on the efforts with teacher certification, and Superintendent Lang will present.
So I shared a memo in the packet. I just got to get to it real quick to jog my memory, but there's a lot of things happening right now around teacher certification. Efforts with the community college, USM, and other parts of the university system reaching out to us, including Farmington, saying, how can we collaborate? How can we work together? Member David and I have had some conversations around what kind of language might go into a bill, and have shared some of that language, and we'll see what traction exists with that. But I think when we really nail this down, I'm taking it upon myself to represent the community in every capacity that I can to say that we have an absolute crisis on our hands. And while things are other topics that are very important, in my opinion, this could be the most important topic. Education is an all-time shortage nationwide. The university systems do not have many students in the pipeline for education. The certification pathways for education are very cumbersome. They're very traditional, and they require you to just keep going to school. And I don't discount the importance of students going to college, getting a degree, being certified, and coming to classrooms. But what I really have a struggle is right now we have over 30 teaching positions unfilled. And we have over 30 people on either emergency or a waiver, emergency certification or waiver, which, by the way, in federal and state realms is being discussed as taking those away for next year. So we would be 60 teachers short to start school next year if that were to happen. And the pathway for people to be certified requires you to take college class after college class after college class. And we have people in the classrooms right now that are engaging students. They've built fantastic relationships with students and their families, who are asking for supports within the building and getting coached up on the teaching and learning components of it, which take many years to learn. It's a craft, it's an art form. You learn and learn and learn. But the problem we have right now is you could do that and be told you can't work here because of the certification rules. So part of what I shared in the memo was an idea that we're pitching, we're trying to get some traction, but people make the rules, like the State Board of Education and the Department of Education and Legislature, and they tie it to federal laws and whatnot also. But the challenge we have right now is really around teacher certification. If we don't have adults in our schools, we will have to close. And so I've been saying to people in very public ways, right now, plan B is we close our schools. And I want to protect certain components of our certification process and make sure that it's a rich experience for people to do good work in schools, to maintain a high bar and high expectation. We can't close our schools in the meantime, and the traditional pathways only allow for certain things. So part of what is in this memo we shared is a homegrown or apprentice-like option. Again, this is language that we can share, we can support, but it would require law and the Department of Education and the State Board of Education to adopt another pathway for people that currently doesn't exist. And so when you see references to Chapter 115, that's directly connected to what is permissible for certification. So right now, the most streamlined way, I think, for people to become teachers is to go to a school like a Farmington or other, where you take 4 years of schooling, you pass sections of the praxis test for professional standing, you have a specialized area with at least 24 credits in that subject matter. And then because you finish that college program and in student teaching, you can go teach. And if you do that successfully for a few years, you can get a professional certification. I have no issue with that process. I think it's valid. But when we're as short as we are, how else could we do this? So the homegrown option would be something along the lines of we coach people, we evaluate them while they're in front of us, and give them a 5-year window to achieve their own growth, to have a reflective process where they build a portfolio. And they can have it either reviewed by a group of their peers, the university system, experienced teachers, what have you, to say this person has the skills and knowledge to implement a teaching learning program. One of the other challenges we have right now with emergency or other waivers, they're good for 1 year. And they can apply up to 3 times 1 year at a time. So there's no guarantee they can do it next year. And after a 3-year window for the waivers, you cannot apply anymore. And so if you are someone in our community, for example, and this actually happened to us, who had a bachelor's degree, worked in the world of finance, and just wanted to get back into a classroom and teach. I shouldn't say back, get into a classroom and teach. This was going to be their legacy they could leave behind. They made their money. They wanted to teach kids about real math that they worked with their whole lives. So they applied to the state to get information about that, and they find out that, and I heard this by way of our HR department, that they needed to go to school and get 12 credits. So this is an adult professional that has an engaging life story, that wanted and willing to engage kids and do the work of teaching with all kinds of real world experience, that said, I'm not going back to college to do this. I just want to impact kids. I don't want to go take 4 college classes. I don't want to go take assessments to measure my aptitude in math before I can do it. I want to just go impact kids' lives. And I think we can trust in our systems and structures to coach people up, evaluate them annually. And I think over a 5-year window, if approved, why can't we have these teachers be our own? I actually think that we are better equipped in many cases, especially in this community, to train our teachers with our level of need, our level of poverty, our level of diversity. If someone wants to come here and be here, we should be able to coach them up and get them the certification and let them keep impacting kids' lives. Right now, we don't have that option. So this is an effort to share that with the state. And again, if I started this memo with some pretty clear language that, you know, whether it's sounding the alarm, ringing the bell, waving a flag, I'm doing all of those things. Educators right now at an all-time low as far as folks going into programming and graduating ready to teach. So if we have people that want to be in our schools, we should have a pathway for them to get there. I just wanted to share that with you.
Member Beaumont?
Yeah, Jake, I couldn't agree with you more. The most important criteria is for somebody that wants to make a difference in kids' lives and impact them and has something to offer them. Some of the best teachers I've known, unfortunately, were never able to put a foot in the classroom. Potential teachers impacting people because they didn't have the degree. And whenever we get into a debate on what's more important in education, content or process, I always say it begins with the individual that really wants to impact kids. And I couldn't be more supportive of this effort.
Member Hurd?
Thank you. So I think this is great. I feel like, what did we do before college? You had real in classroom experiences, like that's how teachers became teachers. So I do think it's great. And again, being devil's advocate here, like who's going to coach these people? Our teachers are already at the max of like what they can handle and what's on their plate. So we're potentially adding one more thing to their already full agenda. So like, what does that look like? Do we have like new positions that we're going to potentially be opening up for like coaching positions, and like who takes on that role of coaching these current, you know, ed techs or, you know, staff that want to become teachers, who coaches them and who brings them up to where they need to be?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think one of the things we find with folks that want to work with kids, who want to engage them, is how proactive they are about their own learning. So I think that's a key piece to it. We find that sometimes the people that are the hardest on themselves about their evaluation and the feedback are also our best educators. Not always, but a lot of the time. We do have some coaching available in our district. We do have a set of mentors in each school. Our eval process is designed to be reflective in nature. We have lots of specialized professional development in our district that is specifically designed for our kids and their level of need. So I think there's a lot of resources that we are already using. I guess we just want it to count for something, especially if we have someone that wants to engage kids. And I said it recently, I say it all the time, but if you give me an adult that wants to be in a classroom and work with kids, I'll take them all day long. All day long. We can teach them the math. We can teach them the curriculum pieces and how to deliver it. We can teach them assessment and how to enter a grade. You can't teach adults who want to be there and engage our kids.
And one more thing is, my only concern would be if this isn't something that's approved, like if we get special permission or, you know, from the state or whatever, if this isn't statewide, my concern is that we could potentially become a stepping stone for people. So we have people or educators that are here and we're the only local school that does this in the area. So people are going to come here, they're going to get their certification, that they're going to go elsewhere. So like, how do we navigate that whole?
To me, I think it's a greater good conversation. If we train people well here and they go to another school, they're still impacting kids, I'll take it. But I think you raise a good question of how much are we going to invest? This process, if approved, or anything, any spinoff or variation of it, because again, this is the initial conversation around language that's submitted for a bill, working with Peggy Rotundo, and she's looking at it from a labor force perspective, and really trying to navigate the waters of how do we get something along these lines in so that we can certify people. So I don't know if this is what will be adopted, but I've already presented to the state Board of Education back in, was it November, December, I'm not sure. They were very interested in what we had to say, shared language with them so they could be looking at it. Definitely felt like they were listening and considering it. But I think the plan B piece is the piece I keep harping on, and maybe it's not the right pitch, but plan B right now is we're not open. I talked to a principal today who has had a spike in some sore throats and potentially COVID, I don't know. But right now, they had 5 teams at the middle school that were short a classroom and had to fold those kids into another classroom. That was today. That was before those 60 people don't have a waiver or are not employed because they don't exist. And so, I mean, we're looking at these challenges on a daily basis now, never mind another year of retirements, another year of potentially rules changing with certification waivers. So I over answered that, but I just think the important points to kind of to reiterate.
Member Scott.
Thank you. So those are some of the questions that I had about this. Where is our conversation with the Department of Education in the state of Maine? What are they looking at? Are they looking at alternative things? Because I'm a huge fan of thinking outside the box, especially with what we're dealing with these days. We have to think outside the box on many issues. So I appreciate this coming forward and appreciate, so is there a bill with Peggy right now to go to education and cultural affairs, or where are we at specifically on that?
So we are back and forth right now, working together on some language, and she's working with her team too for an actual LD to create a bill that again would go through its own process to see where it ends up. I'm hopefully get some traction, but I'm screaming it from the rooftops. We have to do something different. Or plan B is no school at times.
So if we approve this evening, because it's, do we have to vote? What is this? It's just a receive and an update. So there's nothing really for us to do. So you're looking for us to say yes to move forward with this to see where we can go with it, or?
I think if anything, share it as broadly and as widely as you can. I think that this is a real situation, and if we don't move some things through the legislative process or the State Board of Education by next school year, we're gonna be at an impasse in some spots.
Okay, thank you.
Member Bopala.
Sarge was Heard's concern with there's a 5-year cycle that we have them for 5 years. Should they decide to agree to pass just before that, they have to start over again. So there is a little bit of a hold.
At least that's part of my pitch is you make a commitment to that community for that window.
Member Bowden.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. My first one you might have already answered. It might even be in this memo, but I didn't read it thoroughly enough to answer my own question. Is this is this just for Lewiston, or are you looking to open this up to every school district to use the same criteria as far as are we the only ones in this situation basically, and would it just impact Lewiston?
So this is an issue nationwide right now, definitely statewide. The superintendents that I've talked to are very open to some kind of alternative process to get people toward certification so that we can get them in and keep them in. So it's what I propose here is language that has been shared outward, connected to what I'm hopeful for is an LD that will get some traction and hopefully make some shifts. I don't know that all of this will be in there, but I wanted you to know what message I'm trying to share out, both to our superintendent's group as leads there and also beyond, so at the state level.
So I guess my second question is, where we specifically have, did you say 30, 60 teachers who are technically uncertified, but working towards it at a collegiate level? When you've got colleges and universities and our students applying to them, is this impacting our kids? Like, are they does this make us not less than, but do colleges look at this and kind of look down on it like, oh, well, they don't even have like certified teachers in this school district?
So this is a nationwide issue right now. And it's interesting to navigate some of the rules. So we could take that person from the bank example that I gave, that person ended up deciding not to engage in the process because of what it required. And so then what do you do? And so we look for people that get an emergency cert, a waiver, or it ends up being like a long-term substitute. And we recognized 2 fantastic long-term substitutes today These are two people that are really good at engaging kids and finding a way to get them what they need. They're not certified teachers. They are not compensated the same. They don't get the same benefits. So I think from a workforce perspective, that needs to shift too. But to me, there's really bad alternatives. Obviously, no school is the worst one, but we're looking at it. The other bad alternatives are a long-term sub rotation with someone who's really doing a good job, but not an educator and not in a program to become further certified in their craft. But as far as would a college look at one high school in any particular area and say your staffing levels are mixed right now, so we would downgrade anybody? I would say no, because this is everywhere. I'll spare the name, but I talked to a major university practicum and student teacher placement coordinator. And that individual shared with me that they had 4 students this year for science and math together to put into student teaching statewide. 4. We'll need more than 4 next year.
Member Damon.
Jake, this homegrown certification process, is this occurring in other states? Is there an actual working model for this somewhere?
So I don't know about 50 states. I know that when I do regional and national things and in conversations in the network of superintendents, that this is a problem across the board. So I know people are trying to get creative with the efforts. But this particular idea is just something that I was trying to pair with what we know is a local issue to Maine. What I know is a process I think we could champion and support, and what I think we could build the resources around supporting. Another factor to this, just that I don't know if I dove into it in this, but we have a reimbursement model for our teachers, and we have an approval process because we have finite resources. So let's say we don't shift to this other model. Any teachers coming in that need classes to be certified, their compelling argument to be the ones to be reimbursed is that if I'm not, I can't be certified. It's a pretty compelling argument. Do you know what that would cost us? That budget line for our district would have to triple easily. We had $80,000 worth of requests this semester. I think is right. So, right? Is it 60 or 80? 80 teachers at $1,000 or so a course. That was a request this semester, not this year. And so if we have teachers that need multiple classes to continue to work toward this, we also have to find the money to support that effort. There's outfront and things like that, and we're trying to leverage those with the community effort, the community college effort, but that will run out also.
Member Scott.
Thank you. Is the Department of Education working on anything that's outside the box like this and looking at how they're going to, I mean, as you stated, this is something that's happening across the state, across New England, across the country. Like, who's thinking about this?
Sure, I'm not the only one thinking about it. There's a lot of politics in play when we talk about the process by which the state Board of Education adopts laws and changes to law. I would actually say the Department of Education has been pretty proactive in trying to find new pathways for educators. I would say that they've hit some roadblocks at times. It's a pretty dynamic process, takes a long time. They spent a lot of time on it recently, but not a ton of change. There was some change. Bruce, you were asked in part earlier, are there other school systems in other states doing this? Not necessarily, but you're a well-known tradesman in the mechanical HVAC field. Apprenticeships and on-the-job training with someone who's looking after you, who's making sure you're doing the job and learning the technical skills and growing your craft is something that we do in every single trade available. And it keeps our country running. And in teaching, you can't. And I don't understand that.
Member Hurd.
Thank you. I also think something that maybe, and I don't know if it's you or someone else that needs to also bring this up, or maybe our local delegation too, but I think the reason why we have so few teachers that want to become teachers is just because of everything that they're required to do, everything that's on their plate. And so I know we talked earlier in the year, Sue had presented to us and said, like, looking at a whole, we kind of like step back a little bit and we were going to take away a few of these things. Like maybe as a whole, the Department of Education needs to step back and take a look and see, like, what are some things that we can do to stop requiring so much of our teachers. And I know that's like a bigger conversation than here, but like it has to start somewhere. Someone has to start that conversation. Because it's not, people aren't just saying like, I don't want to become teachers anymore. It's because there's so much on their plate. There's so much that's required of them, not only in school, but when they go home, like at the end of the day. Are there any members of the public that wanted to speak on this?
Good evening. I'm Jay Rich, the president of the Lewiston Education Association. I wanted to thank you, Superintendent Langlis, for taking the time to come up with this plan. I know a lot of thought went into that. After the agenda was posted publicly on Friday, I did a survey of the LEA and asked them their thoughts on this homegrown apprenticeship option. And so I'd like to share some of that aggregate information with you. Teachers, students, and administration have felt the effects of the staff shortage. Some students, like those in special education or RTI programs, are not getting their services. Some classrooms find themselves without necessary supports for student behaviors. Other educators are missing prep times or lunch periods to make sure duties are covered. Staffing shortages put huge strains on our veteran staff and our administrators. While the homegrown apprentice option for certification may provide benefits, such as training our own educators, opening the doors for those who don't have financial means to obtain a degree, there are several cons that may outweigh these benefits. This type of certification program is not a long-term fix for the ongoing issue in our district and state, which is turnover. After spending 18 months in negotiations with CPEs, we lost a large number of our teachers in the 2021-2022 school year, namely due to issues such as pay, benefits, national board stipends being decreased, the amount of PLCs and PD required for staff weekly, and the lack of support staff. Not to mention the lack of respect many of our teachers, nurses, and other CPEs felt during the process. None of these issues are being addressed with this plan. If implemented, this plan would take some of our most valued support staff without means of replacing them. Do we want to be the district with unqualified teachers? We are already placing teachers in the classrooms on emergency and conditional certificates, and I believe parents in the community would be shocked to hear that we are continuing this pattern of not retaining highly qualified educators and instead looking for easier and cheaper ways to employ unqualified staff. This plan also leaves us with many questions, and here are a few from our members. What about the theory and pedagogy classes that we take during our time in college? How will the staff be placed on the salary scale? Who will coach and train these new people? How do we assess if someone has performed these tasks listed in the plan satisfactorily? How is this plan different from the Educator Pathways program already being utilized by the district? And how will the association be involved in these discussions? Lastly, is this where Lewiston wants to spend our political capital? While it may provide an immediate gratification, it will hurt the district and the profession in the long run. We want to be known as the district that not only recruits the most qualified staff, but retains them as well.
Member Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering if I might ask the speaker for more specific numbers. I see 32% of those. She did send us out an email late this afternoon. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to read it extensively as I've wanted to, and I will be reading it. But it says 32% of those surveyed are in favor of the plan. 78% are not in favor. So that is from the survey taken from the Lewiston Education Association. I'm wondering if we can ask how many members were surveyed in this so that we have a better understanding to her comments that she just made.
Ms. Richard, would you like to answer some questions? Sorry, I'm having an issue with
computer. As of right now, we had almost 75 responses of this. So it is not inclusive of all of our teaching staff, but it was a little bit late and I tried to keep it open as long as I could to get as many as I could and tried to take some anecdotals throughout the day as well.
How many educators do we have in our system?
We're approaching 600 educators and more than that, ed techs, around that ed techs.
And just a reminder again of how many are we short currently?
We're just over 30 open teacher positions, and the emergency certification and waiver structure has 30 plus folks in that pipeline.
Thank you. So,
And if I just anecdotally might add, some of them are doing a hell of a job.
so I guess I'm just saying this now. I don't want any educators in our system to hear me incorrectly when I say this. I think certified teachers are extremely important. But I also think that we're in a situation, and we're not the only ones in this situation, and everybody's struggling to get teachers right now, everywhere. And if we don't look outside the box, and we don't look at different ways that we can get coverage in our schools, we're not going to have to worry about what our community thinks. And please don't take this the wrong way. We're going to have to worry about what our community thinks about not having certified teachers. We're going to have to worry about what our community thinks about not having classrooms for our students. To me, that is a bigger priority. And I want certified teachers as much as we can get them. We have to move forward with something like this. I think we all have to look at this. I can look at what you put down there, knowing what happens on the legislative level, knowing what this is going to go through from the Maine Education Association, not just our local union. What's going to happen with the Department of Education is going to be tweaked. It's not going to happen the way that Jake put in here. This is a suggestion to move forward. And I personally feel that as parents and as school board members, we need to support something like this because we do not want to be put in a situation next fall where we don't have classrooms for students. And now all of a sudden, where we were having conversations a few years ago about 30 kids in the classroom, we're going to be having conversations about 60 kids in the classroom. And we're going to have parents knocking on your doors every night going, what are you doing about this? So, you know, as someone who's been married to a Mason for 30, oh my God. I'm sorry, I can't remember. It's only 35 years, I would say that. And he became an apprentice at 13 years old. And did not finish high school, but it was that apprenticeship that put him into a trade that made him to become one of the most skilled before he got sick masons on the East Coast, where he was actually redoing the Freedom Trail and also redoing the Lions Heads on top of the Vanderbilt Mansion in Newport, Rhode Island. That was sought after in his trade. And he learned that and being an apprentice and moving up by other masons. I think we really have to remember that that is a lot how this country works. And we have to start looking at those things again for the future of our country. Thank you.
Member Bogle.
Thank you. Could we ask Ms. Rich to clarify the percentages? They're off in some way. It's either 2278 or 3268.
Apologize for my math. I wasn't taking into account the decimals as well. So 32, 33. Oh gosh, 34, 35. So it's like 30. I'm sorry. Can you give me a second to do my math?
While she's mathing, I think a quick question. How does this look with our current teachers retiring or just phasing out and leaving the district? We have a lot of new teachers right now over the last couple of years. Is there like a requirement that a current teacher that's mentoring somebody in this program has to already be a teacher for so long? And then how do we meet that as staff continues to turn over? How do we keep that up? Or are we going to ultimately end up with teachers who don't have a college degree training other teachers who don't have a college degree and then our whole district? How do we prevent that from happening?
That would be bad. No, I think we have to leverage all the resources we can. And I don't want people to think that we wouldn't still help people get to their bachelor's and to their certification and some, the ongoing, Paul's very familiar with this, as is Jay. The ongoing effort you have to put in as an educator to maintain your certification for your CEUs or your credits for learning. And so that piece is all there too. So there's a individualized professional piece. There's the mentor piece is established. There's criteria for that. Between people retiring, we still have a whole lot we have hundreds of certified educators that are in the classroom every day doing good work. I think the coaching model, if this is the place we go, we have to start assessing things like what's it cost for us to recruit, hire, and train someone, and how do we want to spend those funds if we're looking at this differently, so that we can train and retain instead of, if we have a dynamic apprenticeship program in this district, it will bring people. And so I kind of more of an answer, but there'll always be that threshold of, do you have enough mentors? We actually haven't had enough mentors, I believe, in years. And that's not just here, that's all over. And also tied to mentors is responsibilities or plans that have to be submitted with a stipend. And so some people just say, I don't need extra right now.
And another question that a thought that I've had for years, I would love to see us do something where we incentivize our own students, encouraging them while they're students to become educators, and then incentivize them to come back, because I think the best teachers in Lewiston are the ones who have gone to school in Lewiston, because they know our population. And so I would love to see, like, you get one step up on the pay scale for starting teachers if you are a Lewiston student and came back, or something like that. I would love to see us think outside the box and get something to incentivize our own students to come back and be educators here.
Yeah, I love that idea. I'd be curious what that looked like in the process.
I apologize. I'm a literacy teacher, not a math teacher for a reason. So I gave an extra 10, but 66.6% said that they were not in favor, whereas 33.4% said that they were. Yeah, I apologize. And can I comment on what you said? So I come from Oklahoma, and the teacher shortage is huge. Like the year I left, we did a walkout. Not saying that we're doing that here, but it's a big deal. And a lot of it came with budget cuts and other things like that. But when they did incentive programs for debt relief, there was a really big increase in the number of teachers who did stay and did, put more back into their community. So if we did something along the lines of, student loan forgiveness or something like that, we could see some educators return.
And I know, like, Farmington is a teacher school and they've had a hard time enrolling, but I know their class enrollment has dropped. So obviously not every student needs to go to college, and that's not what I'm implying, but I think that trying to help the colleges in the same regards get the student numbers back up with a partnership and something like that, I think would be a wonderful idea to improve our district.
And I don't know how far it'll make it, but I know the early sprinklings of legislation at the federal level, there was talk of a $60,000 minimum for teachers nationwide. Again, that was very early in the process. I don't know if it's still a viable conversation or if it'd be funded, but.
Member Hurd?
Thank you. So kind of along the lines of what Member Parks was saying, my mom actually has been at the Career Center at the University of Maine in Orono for over 40 years. And unfortunately, what they're seeing is, like, students, they don't want to put in the time. They don't want to go to the career fairs. They don't want to come to the mock interviews. They don't want to interview with employers. They just are they just don't want to take the time unfortunately, to do that. So how do we incentivize them to come? Do we partner with our local community college? Because we have a lot of students now that are going to college for free. So those 2 years, while they're taking classes for free, they could be working here. We could be starting that apprentice type program with them. Like, how do we bring them back? How do we keep them here? How do we not get them to leave? Like, we need to figure out. We're almost like recruiting athletes here. Like, how do we sweeten the pot to get them to come here?
People that we sat and we listened to second graders read things that they wrote about what they read. And I think the best part of teaching is that. Really, really is. I think we need to compensate better. I think we need different platforms and pathways. But we need to get people to see and feel what it's like to impact a little one or a high school kid that's trying to figure out their way in life, and you can be that voice of reason and a little bit of content. That's the good stuff. It really is.
Member Whitlow?
Yeah, if the legislature were able to pass something, and we were able to do stuff here, what would be the likelihood that we would be able to have like an LRTC program? To have our high school students even think about it, because I don't I don't think that most students want to go to college to be a teacher anymore because of the low pay. And so I was just thinking that would be an amazing option. I worry about colleges and universities that need these students to come and take their courses, and how does that affect it? It's just, I applaud you for you guys putting together, this stuff and having these conversations at the higher levels, because there's going to be a lot of pushback. There's got to be. So thank you, though.
Member Beaupont?
As almost hokey as it sounds, we've got to find some teachers at Lewiston. There are plenty of them that are very well respected, we loved, and have been joined with forces and Future Teachers of America Club, and explain what it's like, the highs and the lows, and the thrill of connecting with a kid. And as I did after retiring, have a memory box of thank you notes of making a difference. It's priceless. Can't put a dollar and cents on that.
Any other discussion? Are you good, Jake? All right. Agenda item number 9, to receive an update and potentially vote on mental health and substance use prevention efforts. And Superintendent Langlis will present.
I think this one will be a little quicker, although not less consequential, I think, in every community right now. But we're working, I want to kind of give you a notice, but also share with community, because we're working with some community partners, healthcare networks, nonprofit called Generational and more. And we're coordinating a series of forums. Member Parks, Chair Parks is actually part of this work. But we're coordinating a series of forums. We're just going to open a discussion to try to talk about the stigma of mental health, talk about substance use as parents, as students, what to look for, what are some of the risks, what does it physically look like. I think we have good opportunities to share and have forums on this. We're also looking at some guest speakers. I feel like it's time to try to inject what we can to some of the process. So I know you remember that Chris Herron, if you look him up, he was a Boston Celtic, flying high on life, kind of literally and figuratively. And his entire career as a professional athlete came crashing down as he got addicted to heroin and other items, I believe, hit rock bottom, and he has since done a lot of self-work and bounced back. We're looking to host him in April at the high school. I don't want to bring it to the committee because he gets real with kids. It's not a sugarcoated performance. He's going to talk real about how dangerous it is. And he really preaches and talks about your decisions you make. And he'll ask you questions like, what do you think a drug addict looks like? Because I think everybody, not everybody, I shouldn't overgeneralize, but deep sockets, super thin, homeless, whatever, that these are what drug addicts look like. And part of his story is that's what you look like when you're at rock bottom. Or what do you look like when you're an active addict? And it doesn't always look like what you think it might, and how it can be happening to anyone, and how to be mindful of your peers and what's going on around you, both your own risk factors, activities that your friends are involved with, the choices that you make. And so he's coming in. I think it should be a good thing, but also to share with you that if any of you can attend that, then I'll get you more information as we get closer. But it might be something you want to sit in on to just see what happens. And right now, we're building the forums in advance so that we're leading up to it. Our community has been struck hard in the last 12 months by mental health, and which oftentimes leads to substance abuse or preconditions for things that will make people have that more addictive structure in their body. Megan speaks this way better than I do, but kids need to know how smart they need to be. And the drugs have never been more dangerous. And those with mental health are more likely to lean that way because it feels better, at least temporarily. So I think it's work we need to do. Community, we're going to go all around, have some things at schools, have some things in the community, and have hopefully tough but meaningful conversations.
Member Scott.
I can't tell you how pleased I am to see this. Working with the Lewiston Youth Advisory Council, this was the first project that they decided. Most of those kids were brand new to the youth council. We only had a couple that came back, and this was the topic that they all spoke about, mental health, and some of that topic surrounded substance abuse as well. They just didn't get to that part yet. The kids realize that this is a problem. And if our kids realize it's a problem, then we as adults need to say, we're going to do something about this. So I'd like to make a motion that we vote to approve this and move it forward.
I'd second that.
Any further discussion? Ms. Medina?
I just have a comment. So first of all, this is exciting. Really looking forward to that. And I definitely want to go. I do think it's important for middle school kids to have the opportunity to experience his story and his perspective, and I hope that in the future, I know it's probably a funding thing, that maybe he can go to the middle school, or maybe we can live stream it or something for the kids to be able to see it, because I do think it's important. So
I do, with the support of the committee, we do want to continue to look for ways to engage more and more kids at all levels in this kind of conversation. The pieces, I asked Chris Herod's team for access to some things because I wanted to know before I commit to this for our kids. What is this? I would say that it's a high school aged presentation. And I think we also have to be mindful that this may trigger a whole lot of people in the room, and providing the support for that at the same time is going to take some resource. But I'm with you that we need to find more and more things and make sure it's appropriate for that age grouping. Where some middle school kids, I think, can handle this. I think there are some that might be wide-eyed and not understand it. But yeah, totally.
Further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Agenda item number 10 is to receive an update on legally required vaccinations non-COVID related.
I wanted to add non-COVID because this has nothing to do with COVID, except for just prior to COVID, there was a lot of law changes in and around what required immunizations, what things were required to attend school. And so I made a decision last year to say, look, with COVID and everything going on, let's keep an eye on signs and symptoms of things through our structures, but let's not send out the "you must get vaccinated" letter right now in the midst of last school year. Having said that, we're beyond that window. I think it's an important thing for people to know that we have sent out this memo. It went out back in December, and every language, phone calls made home, all of those things. And the reason I want to bring it to you as a committee, this is kind of a function of the stuff that we do on a regular basis, but we had over 100 students not comply with this with a cutoff of last Wednesday. And so I made a decision in the moment to say, okay, something's missing because there's too many kids. So let's figure out what we can do. So we've got a couple of feelings out about doing clinics for these particular items that are listed on here that are required for school. But I can say it publicly for anyone watching or listening, but also to all of you that if you get a phone call from a parent saying, I just got a call, my kid can't go to school anymore, that this is 6 months in the works and there has to be a cutoff. These things are required by law and also required for public health purposes. So, but it's got nothing to do with COVID other than the delay. Karen, what's that? Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that April 25th of 2022, the board voted on policy JLCB, which speaks to this directly. It's almost word for word what Jake has put, and it was a result of these changing of the law. So I just wanted to state that was something that the board had voted on almost a little less than a year ago.
Was this sent out district wide?
So the letter was sent by nurses to the families whose students did not have their vaccines, their immunizations yet. With follow-ups.
Member Bowden?
So we're talking about 100 kids? Or more?
I think it was like somewhere around 130 was my latest count. I was at 100 when I was still waiting for district wide. Pockets of kids in each school. I believe Connors had the highest number of 70.
So I understand that it's law. I don't agree with it. I understand that it's law, and I'm just wondering, what do we do for these children who are no longer allowed to attend school? Do we have an obligation? No? So we just kick them out and leave them?
Right. My understanding is we do not have an obligation because by rule, they're not able to be in school. But again, when I saw the numbers and trying to think through this, I'm hopeful that we can close that gap or find some rationale. I'll also add that there's proposed legislation to shift this back because one of the things that happened in the prior law change was was it religious exemption, I think. So that was pulled back, and there's some information out there that there's people that want to support returning it. So
Yeah, that'd be good, because this is just shameful for the state of Maine.
It was worded really wonky too. I think when it was passed the last time, it was that whole double negative, cancel this out thing, and I think that had an impact on it. Member Hurd?
Thank you. I think we need to find an option to hold some sort of clinic or whatnot. I know that I have personally with my children's pediatrician, pediatric office, their current pediatrician, we got a notice in the summer that they were leaving. We switched to another pediatrician. We got a notice that pediatrician was leaving. So there are a lot of offices that are either combined, they're super short staffed. And throughout the day, I have more time to throw at trying to find a different pediatrician for my child. But if you don't have a pediatrician, you're working during the day, or you work at night, and you sleep during the day, like you don't have the option to call around and go to places. And some places won't even, the place that I finally found for my child, I had to physically go to that office, fill out the paperwork, hand it in, and then make an appointment. So, I mean, it might just not be accessible for these parents to get their children caught up.
and I don't have evidence of it other than anecdotal, but I've also heard from some families that they are trying and they have a note from a doctor that says that vaccine's hard to find right now, or a time slot in which we can administer it and also observe you after, because of the shortages is hard to do.
That's
Yeah.
allowed. That's allowed.
Yes, good point.
To have a plan. That's allowed as part of the, what's your plan to get the vaccination? So if we receive one of those notes from a family, then that's an okay thing. That's a thing. If you've got an issue with finding a doctor, or there's a plan to have the vaccination, that does not mean you don't have to get them, but it does sort of give some grace.
Member Whitlam?
Jake, do you have any idea if the language in the law would change before this date, our cutoff date?
Well, the cutoff date was last Wednesday, so it didn't make it. But what I want to make you is, and I'll act as the committee wishes, because it just kind of came upon us, and I had some principals reaching out, some nurses reaching out saying, hey, I got 7 kids, and I got 12 kids, and I got 15, and 3 have a plan and the other 12 don't. Am I telling them today that when they go home, they cannot return? And so Kim and I were just trying to figure out just how many are we talking about here. And that was when I said, we're not doing that right now. Try to find ways to bridge this gap. But again, if this is an ongoing concern, I'll bring it back. I can't help but wonder if some of this is more like what Megan was saying about access. And if it's about access for families, there's nothing that feels right about telling a kid you can't come to school. So we're going to try to bridge that.
And if we didn't kick these kids out of school, what would be the repercussions on our district from the state level or federal level or whoever's level?
No idea. I've not seen language that says if you don't, this will happen. I will note this, that we've had members of our public health community, nurses and whatnot, say there's a risk here, right? So you could have, outbreak of something that is along this line, and if you look at that memo, it talks about diphtheria, pertussis, whooping cough, tetanus, measles, mumps, rubella. I think meningitis is on here, so we also don't want that. Obviously, I'm not saying anybody did, but that, to me, that's the risk. That's the bigger risk in this conversation is, could someone get sick and then spread that?
I know that you're not a doctor of medicine, but if people are vaccinated, they still have the potential to get to catch something even. Okay. All right. I don't know why I needed to ask that. I knew the answer.
Any other discussion? Do you need a vote on this? No, no.
Just
motion
make sure you
required. Okay.
had some direction.
All right, agenda item number 11, to receive and potentially vote to reallocate funding for rooted positions to provide more support.
So this is the topic we talked about last Monday, but we didn't have it on here that we were going to vote. So we're just bringing the same thing back to you. Didn't shift any of the language, I don't believe, just want to bring it back.
Member Hurd?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the funding for the rooted program.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Agenda item number 13, report from the school committee chair. I don't have anything to report on tonight. Agenda item number 14, report from superintendent.
I think that's all for me tonight. I talked so much, I'm not sure. I don't think I have any new updates. We do have some executive session items coming up.
Number 15 is report from, did you want to add something?
I just whispered. We are gathering feedback on our school calendar. We're right on the cusp of that time frame where we're doing that work. Also, we have a draft mission vision goals that we'll be getting feedback on that will be pushed out this week. And we have a retreat next Monday here at 5:30.
Started it this afternoon, so it should be on the. Oh, look at that, it just popped out. Okay.
Agenda item number 15, report from the city council rep.
Thank you. I don't have that much to add either. We just all met last week, so we have a city council meeting tomorrow night. I think one of the bigger conversations is going to be in the first workshop, which is going to be the revaluation proposals and funding. Everybody's been talking about getting valuation done in the community, and it needs to be done. And so we're going to be having a discussion tomorrow night. And then we're going to have a very big agenda. I'll update you at our next regular meeting. And then just one thing I wanted to add was the Lewiston Youth Advisory Council decided that the name of their next event will be Let Diversity Shine. They met with our equity and diversity director last week. They are tentatively scheduling this for March 23rd, and we're currently seeking residents and students to participate in the event to represent. Like today, we got a nice letter from Representative Margaret Craven, who wants to represent Ireland because she's from Ireland. And so I'm hoping that we get a lot of feedback from people to really start representing all the different cultures we have in our community. That's that.
That's great. Thank you. Agenda item number 16, report from our student rep who is not with us tonight. 17 is updates from school committee subcommittees. Member Bowden, sorry.
Thank you. I've been called worse things. We had an excellent mathematics curriculum meeting today. There were 21 members in the room, administrators, specialists, teachers, school committee men, and the parent, which I thought parent involvement was really good. Sue, Karen, help me with the name of the facilitator. I'm terrible with names. General Bounty did a wonderful job. We actually went overtime and nobody was looking at the clock or running to walk out the door. So good work is being done by those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other school committee, subcommittee updates? Member Bowden.
I was just gonna say that we were supposed to have a pathways meeting last week, but he rescheduled it and to Thursday. We also have a finance committee Thursday. Everything in the world is happening on Thursday this week, so we'll have something to report at the next school committee meeting.
Agenda item number 18, community announcements. Member Hurd.
Thank you. So the Auburn Lewiston YMCA has a bunch of activities that they were doing over February break. So a couple of things are doing like illuminating, sledding, Zoom with the kids classes. They're offering like an open skate night. So if I can forward all of that information to somebody, and you can post that, that would be great.
Member Bowden.
Thank you. So the other thing happening Thursday, just another reminder, is that it is the final basketball game of the season for the Lewiston girls and boys at Edward Little High School. Again, it's the final games that will be played in the Edward Little High School gym. So it's a big event and they're selling bracelets right now at the high school. If you want to attend, you need to purchase one ahead of time. The girls' game is at 5 p.m. and the boys' game is at 7 p.m. And parking will definitely be a nightmare. And like I said before, there's only 500 bracelets available for Lewiston fans. So if you want one, you need to go see Mr. Fuller.
Thank you. Agenda item number 19, future agenda items. Member Scott.
I wanted to bring this up from the gentleman that spoke at public comment this evening. I thought he was very well spoken. I know that this is a conversation that many people have had for many years around, the need for, I'm a big advocate for play. Kids need time, even middle schools, even high schools, in my opinion, need time to get some of that energy out and aggression out in order to continue to, focus on their schoolwork. So I would like to have us have a conversation around that, please.
Any other future agenda items? Okay. Agenda item 20, to enter into executive session on a legal matter in accordance with 1 MRSA 4056E.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.